This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Anna Soubry.
Good morning and welcome to LBC. I'm on for the next couple of hours and I'm going to be taking your calls, talking about some of the big issues today. And the first big issue, if you've just woken up or you've just, got yourself together and what's going on, front page of almost every newspaper is about the New Year's honours that have just been announced. Not who's on it. Well, there is controversy about that, I think, and I'm really interested in your views on that. But the big story is the fact that everybody who's been given an award, their address was obviously inadvertently, but published online. So it's over 1,000 addresses. And that's people like Elton John, Sir Elton John, who got an additional award, right the way through to people who are members of our armed forces, to police officers, other celebrities as well, who say, this is a terrible breach of their privacy, and there are concerns for some of them that this means that they are the threat against them is enhanced because their addresses have been printed online. So that is the story, but there are also other controversies, as I have said. So please call 0345 6060 973, text 84850 and tweet at LBC. So these other controversies, which I really want to know your views on, and that's how you can contact us. There's an online petition. 100,000 people have already signed it, and he actually hasn't even got it. Ian Duncan Smith, in the honours list, he was awarded a knighthood, and people are saying, outrageous. He should be stripped of it, even though he hasn't already got it. And as I say, there's an online petition. The big complaint seems to be that Ian Duncan Smith is the author of universal credit, and people are saying that's why he shouldn't have got that honour. And as I say, there's that petition. So controversy about him, controversy about the former head of the DPP, Dame Saunders, as she is now to be called. Should she have been made a dame? It is said that under her watch, the DPP, that is the Directorate of Public Prosecutions, actually she failed Alison Saunders in hitting the targets that she set for herself, and that she wasn't awarded it when she actually left office, as many are, but now she gets it. So what's going on there? People are saying, look, this can't be right. Just because you do your job, and actually if you do it badly, why is there an automatic assumption that just because you were the Director of Public Prosecutions, you will get an honour? Just like if you were the head of the British Army, you get an honour automatically. Is that right? What happens if you screw up? Should you not get that honour? So there's a big one there. And of course, the long time argument about all those people that no doubt who you think should get an honour, whether it's a famous person, whether it's somebody that you know in your community, in your life, that's touched your life, who jolly well should get an honour, but they're not there. So all in all, it's 2019, it's nearly 2020. Should we have an honours system at all? Is it just time to call the whole thing off, scrap it, replace it with something better, or just not bother at all? These are the big issues I think about the honours system. It's in the news. So what are your views? Give us a call, 0345 6060 973. Text us on 84850. Tweet at LBC. So let's get those calls coming in, please. So let's go to some of those calls. Who should we talk to first? Let's talk to somebody's calling in from the Wirral. That's Mark. Good morning, Mark. What do you want to say about this?
Good morning, Anna. Well, this is an onion, and there are several parts to it that need to be peeled off. I like the honours system in that it rewards people for charity work. So that element of it I like. So keep the MBEs and OBEs, and let's look at a more fair system where it doesn't so much go to celebrities. Number two, I don't like peerages because I don't like the House of Lords in its current form. In fact, I think we should get rid of the House of Lords and replace it with a second revising chamber, which is actually selected by something called sortition, which is similar to the jury service system.
Go on. So it wouldn't be elected, obviously?
No. No, it wouldn't be elected. It would be selected on a 1-year term from normal people, like you get selected for jury service, which is basically everybody who is on the electoral roll gets their name put in a hat. And then
you draw out names and you're in the House of Lords.
For a year.
For a year.
Right.
What happens if you don't want to do it?
Well, that's fine. You can say, I don't want to do this.
Right, okay.
Employers would be forced to keep your job open. You would get paid to do it.
Okay.
You would get your expenses to do it. So you'd go and have your hotels in London or whatever. But actually, I believe it would bring a set of sanity to our laws, whereby they have to pass through people that they actually affect.
Look, I think sorry, Doug, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Actually, I think you're making some very interesting points here, which is the distinction in the honours system between a peerage, which is somebody who is in the House of Lords, who is passing laws, effectively scrutinising legislation, often holding the government to account, is a very different role and therefore honour than, as you identify, OBEs, MBEs. Of course, there's the BEM, which is this lower tier, and then you go up to the CBEs and so on and so forth. And I think you make a good point about the distinction there. Can I just, because I think peerages is something completely different and it shouldn't be part of the honours system. And in fact, there's obviously a lot of us believe we should have an elected House of Lords in any event. You said about celebrities, Mark.
Sorry?
You said about celebrities. What's wrong with somebody like Elton John receiving some of the highest awards that we can get? Because I think he thoroughly deserves it. One, because he's top of his game. Secondly, he's done a huge amount of work for charity.
Fair enough, but let's vary it a bit more towards, mainly, as I say, it's degrees, Anna. It's, maybe 20-25% going to celebrities and the rest, 75%, going to people who've done good things.
Yeah, but I think a celebrity like Sir Elton is there because he has done a good thing, you see, because he raised £450 million for AIDS.
He would be part of the 25%, fair enough. But as I say, there are lots of people out there who've done good things for charity and so on, raised lots of money, done just good, I'm going to use the word altruistic things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, look, interesting. Look, I think there's lots of really good points there. Thank you, Mark, so much for being the first caller on this morning. So this is what we're talking about, the honours system. Is it right? Should it be scrapped? Is it just time to call it a day because it's got so many flaws? Let's go to Martin, who's calling from Loughborough. Good morning, Martin. What's your point?
Morning, Anna. I agree with the last caller on a lot of things, mainly about the peerages. I come from Loughborough, and as you know, Nicky Morgan stood down here as a candidate. She knew she was going to get beat in this area. She stood down, and all of a sudden she's been handed a peerage in the House of Lords. So,
I don't think she knew she was going to get beaten, darling, because the person who replaced her was a Conservative who won. But anyway, go on. What's your point, though?
Yeah, I know, but Nicky Morgan wasn't very much liked around Loughborough at the time. Anyway, so the point is she's then been handed a peerage straight into the House of Lords. So it's a kick in the teeth to the voters in Loughborough. We wanted to get rid of Nicky Morgan out that seat in Loughborough and put someone else in, a Brexiteer, someone who believed in Britain. And then she goes along, and all of a sudden she's just handed a peerage in the House of Lords. So it's, next day we're giving you one. At the end of the day,
no, I think we can honestly say that Boris Johnson won't be giving me a peerage, darling. No, that's for sure.
But it's just that I made the point to the researcher that it's just people tipping the wink to their mates, the peerage system. So
I have to say, I don't think I disagree with you on that largely. I think we have a real problem with this. I think you're making a very good point. Okay, what about Zach Goldsmith? Would you put him in the House of Lords?
There's another one. No, he lost his seat. He stepped down. But he didn't. He lost. He lost it.
He was the MP for Richmond. He lost his seat.
Yeah, and he's just been handed a peerage. It's just like, I think the House
But he was
of Lords,
a Brexiteer, remember?
Yeah, but I know what you mean.
I'm teasing you.
He was on my side, as you like.
But but Nicky Morgan was, because she turned into an arch Brexiteer in the end, didn't she? So that's why some people are a bit upset. They say she sold out.
Yeah, no, we've seen Nicky Morgan here in Loughborough. We've seen both sides to her. She decided to back Brexit to help herself. That's now how, like you say, you won't get
comment, Martin.
You wouldn't get a peerage. She got one. She backed Boris Johnson in the end, and he said to her, "Go in there, Nikki, and there's a good little job for you, still in the cabinet, out of the way."
Couldn't possibly comment, Martin.
Well, but with the honour system, there should be an honour, and it should be happening. It still hasn't happened for Lewis Hamilton, one of the best Formula One drivers Britain's ever produced, probably the best. And
not disagreeing. Okay, Jimmy Greaves.
Gets overlooked.
Somebody said to me this morning, Jimmy Greaves, why hasn't he had an honour? Tony Blackburn, that's my thing. Why hasn't Tony Blackburn got an honour? Long-standing broadcaster.
It's just, no disrespect to the people that got it. The girl that won Bake Off, she won Bake Off once. Other than that, I've never seen on the telly she's been handed one. Lewis Hamilton.
I think for her, in her defence, she's actually done an awful lot of work on mental health awareness, and actually she does a lot of TV programmes, and I think she's a bit of a role model for a lot of people, especially in the Muslim community. So I don't have a problem with her. What about people who've worked all their lives in industry and they've done a good job, as you'd expect them to do? Should they get a reward by an honour?
Yeah, and I think like local people in Loughborough that have worked. They've done a lot for Loughborough, for the community. They don't even get a mention. People like that, local businessmen here who employ lots of people.
Yep.
We've got Bentley's Brushes here in Loughborough.
Yep.
We've got the Brush. We've got all places like that nobody gets a mention from them sort of places.
Right.
But just one last thing before I do go.
Okay.
One man who was overlooked to be a Sir and knighted was Mr. Brexiteer himself, Nigel Farage.
Well, I think this is a very good topic that we should discuss, and I'm happy to start off this conversation by saying I think there's actually a good argument. I wouldn't have him knighted because I think that's an honour, but you could argue that he should be in the House of Lords because of that job of scrutiny, that job of legislation, that job of actually making sure the House of Lords is more representative. So, don't forget, that's what we're talking about. The honours system. I've put a little hand grenade in there talking about Nigel Farage. You're listening to me, Anna Soubry, on LBC. It is now 16 minutes past 10 and we're going for an ad break.
This 60973.
Morning. Yes, we're talking about the honours system. It's hit the headlines not just because who's in it and who's not in it, but also because of those people that have got an honour have had their inadvertently, of course, but the Cabinet Office went and put the list with their addresses on the internet. And understandably, people are pretty cheesed off about that. Look, when I was a minister in government, and when I was in the business department, I was specifically asked for names to put forward for an honour. I was quite surprised. Now, it was a bit of pressure, actually, to make sure that I gave my quota of names to put forward, which actually I refused to do. I only put forward people I thought actually did genuinely deserve an honour for going way over and beyond what would be expected of them. And I was surprised that the two names I put forward got such a high honour. They got a CBE, Commander of the British Empire. And I should say that my partner, before I met him, he too got a CBE. I just thought I should stick that one in case anybody made some scurrilous accusation in any way that I've got some vested interest in this. But the real concern is, should celebrities just get them anyway? Why? If you do your job well, why do you get an honour? And especially if you're a celebrity, because you've got lots of fame and you've made lots of money. And also, should the Lords be included in this? And there's been some discussion about whether or not, and I take the view that the Lords being made into a member of the House of Lords should not be part of the honour system at all. Personally, I think we should have an elected upper house in any event. But it should be about making sure that it's part of the democratic process and it does a good job and it reflects more public opinion. It's not stuffed full of cronyism, as some caller quite properly called it. And that's why there's a good argument that Nigel Farage, dare I say, should actually be in the House of Lords so that job can be done and it can better reflect society. But I know that Jared has called in. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, from Harlow in Essex. Good morning. Good morning to you, and thank you for calling in. Let's talk about the actual honours system in terms of rewarding people. Do you think that's right?
I believe the honours system is a good idea to reward extraordinary achievement so it trickles down into society, because most of the time society tends to reward failure. That's it, thank you.
And that's it, as simple as that. OK, thank you very much for calling. Don't forget the number is 0345 6060 973. And I should say that I've had a number of texts. You can text us, of course. Text 84850 and tweet us at LBC. Ian Duncan Smith is far more worthy than the likes of Elton John, says somebody anonymously. I don't know. I read that one out because I don't approve of anonymous ones. Put your name on it. Come on. I agree that the addresses of the honours should not have been published, but what's the problem? Many of them have photos of their homes in national newspapers. That's a good point from Eddie that is made in a tweet, that actually that there are no surprises in those addresses in any event. They are widely available, especially on Wikipedia. OK, let's talk to Jennifer, who's calling in from Ealing. What's your point, Jennifer?
Well, I think the honours list really isn't worth the paper it's written on now because of all these things given out willy-nilly. Elton John, for instance, has been handsomely rewarded by his fans over the years, so have most of the other celebrities. Ian Duncan Smith hasn't only... he was a former leader of the Conservatives. He's done quite a lot of good in his life, but he's only sort of known by this universal credit, which did help a lot of people back to work, but we only hear about the ones that were slipped through the net and were, penalised, if you like. And then you've got the likes of the elderly gentleman, the war hero, or war veteran, I should say veteran, who's only got a minor sort of award when he should have been made a Sir. And he's done an awful lot in his own way for charity at a very late stage in his life and all through his life. And sometimes they get rewarded by, say, the French, when we've never rewarded them.
The Légion d'honneur. Yeah.
And I also think, why are we calling it the British Empire Medal and the, keep mentioning the empire, because we have no empire now. Yeah. And most people didn't agree with the empire and still don't agree with it, but they're happy to accept the medal.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who think that, as you've identified, that whole title should just go because it's just of the past, and a lot of people find it offensive because they said the British Empire actually suppressed many millions of people, and there's a real good... Can I just take issue with you about Elton John? Because I feel quite strongly about this, because I think he's raised an awful lot of money for AIDS. He didn't have to do it.
Yeah, no, but people who they earn an awful lot. He's not the only one. We're just using him as an example. But they earn an awful lot of money, and if they can't do a bit of good with it, then it's quite a sad situation, really, isn't it? I mean, you look at, say, the Eccleston girl who had £50 million worth of jewellery, which is obscene. All right, Elton John has given some of his away, but he's also enjoyed the fruits of it. He's had quite a controversial life, and years ago, if you had a bit of a controversial life, you wouldn't get any award. No. And then we're talking about Ian Duncan Smith. Well, what about Philip Green, who still retains his knighthood, which he shouldn't have done? So, and I would say that, Ian Duncan Smith deserves it far more than Philip Green did. But you see, it's all got to be rather sort of...
it's very subjective as well, isn't it?
It absolutely doesn't mean anything.
Do you not think so?
No, you can run one race, and you'll get awarded for it. But that is, they get rewarded by us paying for their training, which we do now. We didn't years ago. But do they put anything back in society once they become very famous and do all the television adverts and all that? Do they repay the country for actually putting them through these?
But what about all those people who get, admittedly, and this is, again, a controversial point for discussion, I think, those local people who have worked, say, in the local hospice, they've gone way beyond anything that anybody could have expected from them. There's a woman in Nottingham, which is my home city, for example, who had cancer, and she's just got an MBE for her amazing charitable work. I think for her and her family, they will be thrilled silly to have that honour.
Yes, well,
and rightly so, because it's a genuine honour. I mean,
it's the ordinary people
who do extraordinary things,
who are never recognised for what they do, who should be recognised, but they. Perhaps we should keep it more for those sort of people than for the people that have already got a high profile and enjoying the fruits of their success anyway. I mean, but what I'm trying to say is an honour it necessarily doesn't mean what it was supposed to mean a few years ago. You could look at it on a par of going to university. Once upon a time, going to university was a very, very special thing. It isn't anymore.
OK, look, thank you very much, Jennifer, for calling in. Some interesting points of discussion there. Join in this conversation, please, about the honours system. Is it time to scrap it? 0345 60973. Text us on 84850 and tweet at LBC. Let's talk to Jonathan, who's calling from Rhyl in North Wales. Good morning to you, Jonathan.
Good morning, Anna.
So what's your view on all of this? Is it fit for purpose, do you think?
Well, it's an interesting debate, and how we've seen it on Twitter unfold with this New Year's honours list is really, really interesting, because I'm only 16 years old, and young people have taken a view that because of the people who have been on the honours list, that it's not worthwhile anymore. And like Jennifer said, people would even argue it's not even worth the paper it's written on. But I would completely disagree. In my community in North Wales, that I'm so proud to represent as a youth parliament member, we have had some fantastic young people in our community, such as Gay Harris, MBE, for example, who was a dance teacher for 65 years, receives a medal, an MBE, for getting so many fantastic young people into dancing.
And it means a lot to that person, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And obviously, there's another person, that Jamie Smith won an MBE. She has dedicated her life to public service, and it does honour those real champions in our community. And obviously you have all the controversy going on, like you say, with Philip Green and people like that. Yeah. But
you always get the bad one, don't you?
Focus on the negatives,
And not recognising all these other people.
Absolutely, Anna.
Jonathan, can I just ask you something? Because when I was an MP, I learned that, and I don't know whether you know about this, but anybody can nominate anybody. You can do it all online. Yeah. Did you know that?
No, I did know that, and that's the real thing of it, because that shows how citizens can become so active in the process, because they can nominate their real community champions. And like I said before, the media will show you the list of all the big celebrities like Elton John, whoever, and they may well deserve those awards, but it's the people in the grassroots who are doing the fantastic work in our communities.
Brilliant. I just think that I agree with you so much, and we do forget that the majority of the names are down there in the MBEs, the OBEs, and the BEMs, and that is for exactly those sorts of people who have often put years of dedication and hard work into their local communities in one way or another, and unsung heroes who actually then get that recognition that's so important. Jonathan, thank you so much for that, and thank you for being a member of the Youth Parliament as well. Another admirable thing to do. Let's go and talk to Mick in Birmingham. Morning to you, Mick.
Hello, Anna. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What do you think? What do you think about Nigel Farage? Should he be in the House of Lords? I'm warming to this idea.
I think Nigel Farage is a true English patriot, and most people see them as very right-wing. So that's probably why he hasn't got it gone. Plus, a lot of MPs are jealous of his popularity. But as far as the system itself,
not so popular he's ever been elected to the House of Commons, though. Just a small point, Mick. We'll move on from that.
We'll move on from that one. But as for the gonks themselves, I mean, Nigel used to be for bravery years and years ago.
I don't think it's quite the same as the bravery that people was shown, the heroes of London Bridge. And I know that we've had a text in from somebody who said, what about the brave people that tackled that terrorist on London Bridge with the fire extinguisher, and actually the whale's tooth as well? Where is their reward? That's from Dell in Boreham Wood. Actually, I think that's coming because, of course, this list was compiled in June. But Mick, go on. I don't think we put Nigel Farage in that.
There's lots of people that are nurses for 40 years, doing stuff like that don't get recognised.
Well, I think they do. I think that's the point that Jonathan was making from Rhyl, wasn't it? He was saying that they do actually get recognised. There's loads of examples.
Yeah, but I've never seen a nurse ever get knighted. But obviously male nurses are on about it, because obviously women are made dames, isn't they, or something? But
yes.
Like I say, I've never seen that.
Well, I think you'll find, darling, if you look at if you can go online or look in your local paper, especially in Birmingham, the Birmingham Post will have a list of all those local people who've been made it into the honours system. So anyway, thank you for that. Look, that's what we're talking about, the honours system. 0345 60 973. That's the number to call. Join us back for more of that conversation.
For more information. Anna Soubry on LBC. Text 84850.
Morning. We are having a conversation about the honours system. If you've been looking at the news, you'll see that there's controversy because they published the names of the 1,000 recipients online, which was stupid and crass. It was a mistake, but actually quite a serious mistake. But we're also talking about, is the system flawed? So flawed that actually we should scrap it and it should go. And then we're talking about the fact that there are a lot of people that you won't have heard about, who have done marvellous things in their communities, quietly got on, and they are rewarded. And also, of course, that anybody, as someone very kind, anonymously, but I'll let you off that. I do prefer names. But sent a text saying, "Morning, Anna." I think some people forget that how these lists are put together. Floella Benjamin said she got her letter a month ago, so the decision-making took place well before that time. Also, anyone can nominate people for honours, which is absolutely true. So to people who say it should be scrapped, and so-and-so has done a great job, but they haven't got anything, this person who said the text in says quite rightly, get on and nominate those people. He's right, or she's right, because I don't know. Could have been from, I don't know, because they haven't put the name on it. Put your name on it. I much prefer that. Anyway, let's talk to Ben. Morning, Ben. You're calling in from Liverpool. What's the point you want to make?
Morning, Anna. So I wanted to sort of talk about what's been another big stump in the news, which has been Boris Johnson breaking with tradition and not giving the former Speaker, John Bercow, a seat in the House of Lords. Really, I want to think about that in the bigger context of his past 10 years. Obviously, a lot of the news around him has been about Brexit, but to me, I was in a very hipster way into him before he was cool, as it were. In what I really loved and what I think is really constitutional about his important constitutionally about what he's done is the way that he's brought power away from our not directly elected executive and to Parliament, and has made government more accountable, made ministers more accountable, made the voice of backbenchers in Parliament more powerful. I think that's been a really important thing he's done, and to me the message that's sent by him being snubbed for this sort of automatically usually given honour is that this government's saying we don't want scrutiny, we don't want power in this Parliament, we want to do exactly what we want to do and be unchecked in that power. So that's kind of what worries me about the message that's sent by what's happened. But I'd be interested to hear your thoughts as a well-respected parliamentarian until recently yourself. Well,
that's very sweet of you, Ben, but I have to say I think you've made some very good points there. You've made them very well, and I'm struggling to argue against it. I am. I think you're right. I think it's disgraceful that Bercow hasn't been put into the House of Lords. Because every speaker, I think he's the first in, is it something like 230 years or something, that hasn't automatically been given a peerage, and he should have been offered that peerage. Now, if he chose not to accept it, we don't know. That's an entirely different matter. And I know there are people, long-serving parliamentarians, my good friend Ken Clarke, I'm told, has always said he would struggle with a peerage because he believes in an elected House of Lords. So no surprise, Ken being honourable, principled as ever. But with Bercow, to me, it's a no-brainer. He was Speaker. He did great things in the job. Of course he should have been offered it. And I think it looks mean and churlish that this government has not put his name forward as it should have done. So I agree with you, Ben. Thank you for making your point so eloquently. Let's talk to Jürgen, who's ringing in from Kirkcaldy in Scotland. Good morning to you, Jürgen. What's your point?
Well, the honours list, I do think has a place in the future, but I think it has to be depoliticised. It has to be taken away from the government, and either it goes to a third-party body or some sort of group who can, publicise the fact that members of the public can, as you've said, nominate people, but also give people confidence that it is about rewarding excellence and exceptionalism and not just about saying, hey, thanks for doing me a favour.
I think you will find that there is a committee that scrutinises all that's not really an application, but it's like an application actually. All the names that are put forward, it scrutinises them. But of course you're right that there is a political element to it. So there are 2 backbenchers who got a knighthood and a damehood. One of them is Diana Johnson, the Member of Parliament for Hull, Labour, backbencher, clearly because of her outstanding campaigning work for the victims of the contaminated blood scandal. And actually, I was really surprised when she got it. Not because she doesn't deserve it, but because it was a genuine recognition of somebody who has done an outstanding job and relentlessly. The other one was my friend Bob Neal, who was knighted, which I was a bit surprised at. It's for political service. He's also been the chair of the Justice Select Committee, so presumably that's why he got it. IDS, though, Ian Duncan Smith, that is more controversial. But I don't know what we do about this, because he was the leader of the Conservative Party. He served in cabinet, but a lot of people say he shouldn't have got it. What do you think about him? Should IDS have got one? A knighthood?
Well, it's tricky. I mean, I'm a European national and I can't vote in this country, and I obviously wanted the UK to remain, and I'm no great fan of his. Does he deserve an honour for, I guess, his contribution to Parliament and government? Possibly. I mean, I don't think he was certainly the most effective or certainly...
I wouldn't disagree with you on
most
that.
Successful Conservative leader in recent memory.
Well, he had to go, didn't he? He had to step down after, was it 2 years or something? It was
but I mean...
You see, the other thing is, I don't know what you think, but you see, the other thing, if it definitely happens, is that it's divvied up between the 3 main political parties. And a lot of people find that very unpleasant as well, and almost every Lib Dem that served in the coalition government got a gong of some description, just for the hell of it. And then they get bumped up into the House of Lords. And, I think the political side of it, frankly, I think it stinks. But the good side of it, I think you'd agree with me on this, is those people, as we've said, who've gone far beyond the call of duty, excellence rewarded, service, commitment, hard work in their communities.
No, absolutely. I mean, the one point I wanted to make about the House of Lords was it should be an elected body. And I did wonder if we did it on the basis of a sort of list vote on the back of vote share in general elections, perhaps not the entire House of Lords, but certainly a large percentage, would then mean that people's votes, no matter whether you vote for the Monster Raving Lunar Party or the Green Party or anybody else, your vote theoretically could be recognised in that scrutinising body. You could then have real representation.
But I also like the idea. I don't want to get too much into the House of Lords, but there is a real role for people who have a contribution to make that are not involved in politics, but can contribute hugely to the legislative process. Look, Jürgen, thank you so much for calling. Enjoy the rest of your day. Let's go and talk to George in Maidenhead. Good morning to you, George. What was the point that you wanted to make?
Good morning.
Morning.
I think personally the House of Lords should be abolished. I mean, I don't think it ever will, because it's basically jobs for the boys. But I think
all girls.
All girls.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm basically, in my views, fairly conservative. But I think a lot of people, if a party came up with part of their manifesto to abolish it, I think they would get quite a lot of votes, because I think there's a huge majority of people who don't like the House of Lords.
Yep, I think you might be right there, and I think it's certainly time for reform.
And
it shouldn't be part of the honours system, though, should it? Because it shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't. No, that's right.
It shouldn't be a reward. It should be because there's a job to be done as well.
And also, people doing their jobs shouldn't get rewarded. I mean, why should you be rewarded for doing your job? I mean, most of these people who get it are in good jobs anyway, and they're getting very well paid.
Yeah, I think that I think you're right that there is a concern that, if you've reached the top of your tree in British industry, you will be rewarded, and you wouldn't have got to the top unless you were good. So you have to do something exceptional. It's got to be exceptional over and above.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
And there will be people, and that's my point about Elton John, you see, because I think he's exceptionally, I think he's just decades of being brilliant, as well as his charitable work.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But also,
we can't have this. We've all got to disagree.
On your thing with John Burke.
Yeah, what do you think about the Speaker not getting it?
Well, I don't think he should get it. I think he's a typical little man, bumptious, He was accused of bullying people. That never materialised, but there was fairly strong evidence. And he wasn't impartial. So, I mean, I think it's right. Why should he get it? The fact that all the others have got it doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, well, look, I'm interested in some more calls on John Bercow. Actually, I've got a text from Jonathan, who's texted in from Dulwich. Thank you for that. He says, Bercow broke with hundreds of years of convention to deliberately undermine the referendum result. His behaviour was duplicitous and biased, which compromised not only his standing but the position of every speaker. He absolutely should not be honoured in any way. And he says, regards. Well, thank you for your comment on that, Jonathan. Look, we are discussing the honours system. Is it time to call it off? End. You're listening to Anna Soubry on LBC. I want your calls, please, and it's 10:45.
LBC. This is LBC with Anna Soubry. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Morning. We're talking about the honours system. Should it be scrapped? Is it out of date? We've got this story. Big story that they published all the names. Actually, that's not really what we're talking about this morning, though. What we're talking about are some individuals who haven't received an honour, and some of you think that they should, and some of you think that they should not. Notably, John Bercow has come up, former Speaker of the House of Commons. Nigel Farage has come up. Then we've had some conversations about whether Lewis Hamilton should have been knighted because for his contribution to sport. So it goes on. So give us a call. What are your views on the honours system? Should it be scrapped? What about those individuals? 0345 6060 973 is the number. Text 84850 and tweet us at LBC. Let's go to Simon, who's calling from Manchester. Morning, Simon. What's the point you want to make?
Good morning. I wanted to speak about John Bercow, really.
Yep. What do you think? Should he be in the House of Lords?
No.
Oh, why?
Well, I don't know if you're listening to the show that was on previous to yourself, but we had a former Black Rod on there who had some very choice words to say about Bercow and the way he conducts himself with regards to like abuse of staff, his shouting.
Which he denies, of course.
Rudeness.
Which he denies. But, I mean, should he...
Well, I'm sure a general from the army isn't going to come on the radio and lie, is he? I mean, I think these things need to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, but you... Go on. Sorry. What were you going to say?
No, you go.
No, what I was going to say is that obviously these are things that are denied, but in any event, there is the fact that he was the Speaker for 10 years. He did revolutionise in a very good way access to the Houses of Parliament, actually. You know, the Education Centre was set up. He was very keen to make sure that the House of Commons was much more diverse in who it employed, less stuffy. He definitely allowed much more time for backbenchers, and I say that as somebody who was a minister and you know had my feet held to the fire as a result of that. And I think that he made some big improvements for women members of Parliament and their families and children in the House of Commons. And in any event, it is an absolute tradition that the Speaker is made a peer, and not to do it for many people is just seen as mean and churlish. Just sling that in the mix. No, not worthy of changing your mind?
Like I said, I think that was all at the start of his speakership. And for an ex-Black Rod, who is a well-respected ex-member of the Armed Forces, to come on and say what he said kind of casts doubt over his sort of credibility to be in the House of Lords.
Yeah, it is an important contribution to the debate. I don't deny that for one moment. But thank you indeed for that, Simon. Thank you. Let's go to another Simon who's calling in from Orpington in Kent. What was the point you wanted to make, Simon?
Hi, good morning, Anna.
Morning.
Yeah, I am. I think a system of honour is a good thing. I feel like it should be kept for people outside of Westminster, and perhaps specifically people who've actually achieved in the face of adversity. I would echo some of your previous callers who said that Nigel Farage, I feel he should get an honour just because...
he never made it to Westminster. Sorry.
Beg your pardon, Anna?
I said because he never made it to Westminster.
Well, he's been the most influential politician of our time, and for the very fact he should be honoured that he achieved that from outside of Westminster.
No, I
think that's quite some feat, don't you?
No, he was over in Brussels. He was an elected MEP. He's not some
exactly, so he
ordinary
was elected.
citizen. He's a
He was
career
elected.
politician. It's just that he's not been very successful in getting into Westminster.
well, he set out to get us to bring about Brexit. So he's achieved that. So it could be argued that actually he's been the most successful politician of our time, because all politicians' careers ends in failure, wouldn't you say, Anna?
Yeah, I'm not denying that. Don't worry, you can't have a pop at me.
Apart from Farage, because he brought about Brexit. So, as I say, but I'm putting that aside. I don't think you need to get into, are you a fan or aren't you a fan of Farage? It's the fact that he brought about us the choice.
Now,
and then we exercise that choice. So
let me
that's
tell
why
you,
I think Farage should be honoured.
Let me tell you, I had a text from Paul in Beeston. Beeston, in case you didn't know this, is the centre
It's in
almost.
Nottinghamshire.
It is. And it is at the heart of my former constituency, and it is a great place. Anyway, Paul in Beeston says, Anna, I think Nigel Farage should be honoured in 10 years' time if Brexit has been a success. Well, he ain't going to get honoured, in my opinion. But most importantly, should he only get it if Brexit is a success?
Farage brought it about, and then it's now been handed over to the Conservative Party. So it's not really down to Farage whether it's a success or not in 10 years' time, is it?
Oh, that's a great cop-out, isn't it, really? Because if it's not successful,
really,
he can blame the Tories, and if it's a great success, it'll all be thanks to him. God,
no, what I said was, if you remember what I said when I first called in, Anna, I said Farage gave us the choice that we didn't have, and that's why I think he should be honoured.
Okay. No, good point. I actually wouldn't honour him, but I think there is an argument that he should go into the House of Lords, because I think we need to make sure that the House of Lords is a rich diversity of different points of view. But also I would like an elected House of Lords, but with some appointment for people because of the specific field of work that they've been involved in. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into the House of Lords, because what we are discussing is the New Year's the honours system. So call us 0345 60973, text us on 84850 and tweet us at LBC. Let's go to Michael, who's ringing from Queen's Park. Morning, Michael. What do you want to say?
Well, what I have to say is not particularly positive.
Okay.
I see this honours system as a reflection of a society which is totally broken, and I'm seeing it from the perspective of the field I work in, which is classical music, and the whole field. And this is an endemic problem with English societies, is monopolized from the centre. There's one organisation which shouldn't be in the position that it is, and it describes itself as the world's most significant commissioner of new music.
Right.
And if it's that big in the world, I've been told not to mention its name.
But the honours system is for individuals who've made
no, but in the field that I work in,
which is classical music.
Yes, it's the same. It's the people that this organisation sponsors. And
So
promotes.
I think the wider point, which I think a lot of people feel, is that people get honours if they're part of the club, but they're part of almost the establishment, and they know the right buttons to push and all the rest of it. Or because of course you have to be nominated for an award, you can't apply for it. Nobody applies for it. You have to be effectively proposed, and then you have other people put testimonies in to say why you should get an honour, and you don't say which honour they should get, by the way, unless you're a minister. I think you did actually put tiers in. I can't remember now. I might be wrong on that, but you do. It is a feeling that it's a bit of a boys and girls club. So because classical musicians do get honoured, don't they? Sir Simon Rattle just comes off the top of my head, and you can nominate people and then get other people to join in, Michael. So if you feel that somebody should get one, you can nominate them. Did you know that?
Well, if a person has been excluded their entire life over a period of 40 years, the process has been done, as in the case of myself, to cover up a scandal in which more than 25 national level selections of my work for performance were administratively overturned in the first decade of my adult and professional life. So it becomes a matter of like we need to keep the scandal covered up. Now, I think
I mean that's and then, but in the face of that, it has to be said, Geoffrey Boycott, of course, who was a highly controversial knighthood by Theresa May after he was convicted in a French court of assaulting a former partner. But anyway, Michael, thank you for that call. Let's go to James, who's ringing from Durham. Morning, James. What was your point?
My point is that the honour system, it's just a boys' club where they pat each other on the back for having the pants down of the country. John Bercow is the worst speaker we've ever had.
I bet you're a Brexiteer, aren't you, James?
You've done everything to destroy this country from the inside. Well, we saw what was coming. We've won. We're teaming up with Trump. Where we go on, we go all. It's as simple as that, and you're lost and you're smirking all the way through while people tell you how it is. It's as simple as that.
Right.
You're not right. You're not right, Anna. And it is treacherous what you're doing. You're getting people locked up for calling you a traitor.
No,
you're
that's not
true. You're getting people locked up for calling you a Nazi. When basically...
Sorry, James, just a minute. James, hello, James, just a minute, darling. Just a very important thing that you need to understand. I've never got anybody locked up. The police and the CPS are the people who decide to bring a prosecution, and the person who locks people up is a judge. And a judge, and I know I'm an old criminal barrister, that was before I went into Parliament, judges are the people who send people to prison, not the victims of a crime or anybody else. It's a decision that's made by a judge. And I think it's really important that in all that we do is we try and stick to facts and not some of these false, fake stuff put around on social media. Okay? Right, let's go to David, who's calling from Abbeywood. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, actually, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to come in the next hour. We've done the honours system. We're going to talk about Labour and Labour MPs who lost their seats in the election, who've written a letter calling for fundamental change in their party, and understandably, I think rightly so. Also, the former deputy leader, Tom Watson, said that he left Parliament because of the brutality and hostility, his words, that he experienced with Labour. Now, I want to know, please call us. How does Labour become a credible opposition party once again? If it's a complete clear out the shadow cabinet, call us 0345 6060 973. We're tackling outstanding cases of anti-Semitism. Help restore the faith in the party. Text us 84850 and tweet at LBC. That's the conversation coming up next. Good morning and thank you for all your calls. Look, now we're on our next segment of today's show. Let's talk about Labour MPs and the future of the Labour Party, because a whole bunch of Labour MPs who lost their seats in the election have called for fundamental change in their party. And we also know that the former deputy leader, Tom Watson, who didn't stand at the election, who left Parliament of his own choice, now says he left because of the brutality and hostility he experienced within Labour. So I want to know this. This is the question. How does Labour become a credible opposition party once again? Do we need a complete clear out of the shadow cabinet? Do we need a decent, moderate, credible leader of the Labour Party? Call 0345 6060 973. Would tackling outstanding cases of anti-Semitism help restore your faith in the Labour Party? Text 84850. And would you like the next Labour leader? Who would you like it to be? Who do you think should be that credible Labour leader? Tweet at LBC. Because whatever your views, whether you are delighted, dismayed at the Conservative majority, 80-seat majority, a thumping victory for Boris Johnson. No debate about that. But whatever your view of where we are now, with that huge majority, we need a strong opposition. And I know, as somebody who served in government, you want a strong opposition. It is good for government that you have a credible, strong opposition because it keeps your feet to the fire, keeps you at the same time on your toes, to mix my metaphors. It's good for democracy. It's good for government. And any Conservative worth their salt will tell you that it will be good for this new Conservative government, because I'm sure there's going to be a reshuffle in February, and Boris Johnson will get in a whole bunch of new people, boot some out. He will need a good, strong opposition, and anybody, as I say, of any calibre would agree. And it's good for our country and democracy, because truthfully, one of the biggest problems that we have had in the last 3 years is that we have had a pitiful, absolutely hopeless opposition under the stewardship and under the leadership of Jeremy Corbyn. He has been the biggest problem in failing to be that strong opposition. And what happened was that the likes of people like me, we became the unofficial opposition, and we were very much aware of that. And that was not what we really wanted to be, because we knew that there was this thing called Her Majesty's opposition who were failing. So, what does Labour do next? How are they going to get that credible leader to be that credible opposition? Let's talk to Callum, who's called in from Fishguard in Pembrokeshire. Good morning to you, Callum. What's the point that you would like to make, please?
Morning, Anna. So I was just going to say about Tom Watson.
Yep.
Because I think that he played things wrong in Labour.
Yeah, I might agree with you on that, but why do you think he did?
Well, he was deputy leader, but he was obviously more to the centre than Corbyn.
Yep.
And when the Labour MPs and yourself and the others left to form Change UK, I know that he sort of set up a centrist group within Labour to try and persuade people to stay.
Yes.
I think that if he hadn't done that, and if he'd not tried to sit on it and persuade people to stay, more MPs would have left.
Yes.
And then we could have had this big party that could have sort of broken through, like I know Change UK meant to do.
I could tell you now, Callum, you obviously you know you're right, and I can confirm what you say, because it is absolutely the case that after that brave group of 8 left the Labour Party, there was another group of people who were right on the edge of leaving. And you're right, Tom Watson persuaded all those people to stay in the Labour Party, and that he would lead the fight back by the moderates. And what he actually did was he cleared off in November and said, I'm not even standing again. And I think he let down a lot of people, but more importantly, I think he let down our country, actually, because we need a good, strong opposition, and we need a moderate Labour Party. Are you a member of the Labour Party?
I'm not. I'm actually a Lib Dem. But I think that definitely, I was.
There's nothing wrong with being a Lib Dem, by the way, but it's interesting that you have that insight.
No. I think I was looking, and if this party had joined, sort of started and really started to grow, I'd have been looking to join it, because I think that what's needed, because the Labour Party is there's a lot of good Labour MPs, but it's so tainted at the moment that I think so many people would struggle to vote for it.
Yeah,
and I think I can't speak for MPs. But I think there's a lot that would probably be quite disappointed that it never happened and they never had the right opportunity to start this new group and this new party.
And what about those Labour MPs? What would you say to those Labour MPs who used to come up to me and say, God, you're so brave? And more importantly, to those Labour MPs who had left to start something new and would say to them, you're so brave, you're so brilliant, keep going. And they didn't do what they were saying in private. What would you say to them?
I would say that they need to really pull their socks up and try and get someone that's got nothing to do with the Corbyn movement into power. And if that doesn't happen and the unions get someone like Corbyn back in, then they need to look at leaving, because as much as it is difficult, as you know, they can't keep sitting on this and not doing anything about it. And
well, I completely agree with you, Callum. I'm sure there are others who don't. There are some who agree. Thank you for your call. Thank you for your insight. Somebody who does agree says, it's a tweet, says, I rarely agree with Anna Soubry on anything, but she's correct when she says that the country needs a strong and effective opposition. Without such, government can lose their way. Hashtag Labour have a responsibility to provide this over the coming Parliament. And that's from Peter from Bedford. And I completely agree with you, Peter. And I think people should also know that Labour, as Her Majesty's opposition, actually receive a wedge load of your money, taxpayers' money. So on all levels, they absolutely need to be that effective opposition. Right. Simon, Simon says, why don't you join... Simon, good morning to you. What's this? Why don't you join Labour? Why would I join the Labour Party, for crying out loud? Or maybe you're saying that to our listeners.
Hi, good morning, Anna.
Morning.
Nice to speak to you. Why don't you join the Labour Party? Then you can go for the leadership. We need a strong opposition.
Well, a small point. I'm not a member of Parliament. It's just a very minor point.
I know you want to be, and you thought the people of Roxton would vote you in with open arms.
No, I didn't, actually.
Thinking you knew better than them.
No, actually, I didn't.
So,
Hello.
Maybe then you can stop Brexit in its tracks.
Right, well, Simon, let's have a sensible conversation, shall we? So let's, first of all, establish that I always took the view it was extremely difficult for me to win back my seat. It's a key marginal
No, you
straight
said
fight.
you would win your
No,
seat back.
I didn't. I said I'd win if people voted for me, but I could tell you now
that
it was
goes without
extremely
saying.
unlikely. But anyway, why don't you make a serious point instead of being a bit silly?
Well, that is a serious point. We need a jester in the House of Commons, and we're missing one at the moment. We lost quite a few now. When we need, you would make an ideal candidate. You'd be ideal in the front lineup of the Labour Party, if not the leadership itself.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, with Diane Abbott and co.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, that's
nicely, and it'd be your fourth party. Then if you don't get in with that one, maybe you can join the Greens.
Fourth.
Yeah.
Wait, what are these four
UK,
parties?
Independent. It'll be your fourth attempt.
Sorry, fourth party, darling. Sorry, Conservative Party.
Well, you were Conservative, then you changed to Change UK, then you became an Independent, then you'd be a Labour candidate, wouldn't you?
See, that's the trouble with people like you. This is the problem with people like you. You think very clever and very funny, but actually you can't even get your facts right. So thank you very much for your call. Let's talk to Grace and let's hope she's got something sensible and interesting to say. Morning to you, Grace.
Oh, yes, good morning. What I would like to say is that the one thing that Jeremy Corbyn did that no one can take away from him, he put austerity on the agenda. Before Corbyn, nobody wanted to discuss this in the Commons. He forced the Tories. They had to address it. And if they never got in, that's something he did, which is hugely valuable to millions of people in this country.
He lost. He's lost two elections. Yeah. Well, it's a bit important. I mean, if you're a political party, you want to win. Call me old-fashioned, but that's the whole point.
Well,
and he's lost. He's lost two elections.
Tony Blair won the election
3 times
and has destabilised the world with the war in Iraq,
which the majority of members of Parliament voted for.
Well, exactly. Jeremy Corbyn didn't.
Right. Neither did Ken Clarke. What's your point? Maybe your point is that Ken Clarke should be Prime Minister. There's a good idea.
No, the point is that I am making the Labour Party as it once was. Once Thatcher decimated the industrial heartlands, the Labour Party, that was the backbone of the Labour Party, the trade union movement.
So why didn't he win? Why has he lost 2 elections? And this time, one of the biggest defeats, I think, since 1930 something or other.
Well, he lost because the Labour Party, as it was, has gone. I don't think they can resurrect the Labour Party.
But you haven't answered my question. Why? He lost, lovely. Because people were more frightened of Jeremy Corbyn.
For 2 reasons. One, because people were tired. They did not want another referendum.
What? So he lost because he supported a referendum?
Look, Boris said, I'm going to do Brexit. People were tired of having referendums and voting for things that didn't happen.
That's true. But that's not why Jeremy Corbyn lost. Jeremy Corbyn lost because on the doorstep, where I was, on the doorstep, in the real world, people were more frightened of Jeremy Corbyn than Brexit. And they were frightened of what he believes in and what was in that manifesto and what he stands for. And they didn't like the anti-Semitism thing.
Your mind back. When Jeremy Corbyn in 2017 was got in as the Labour Party leader, I remember quite a lot of people saying that at least with Jeremy Corbyn, you knew what he was about. Like Nigel Farage, you might not like the man,
but he lost.
If you met Nigel Farage in the pub, you'd know what Nigel Farage is about.
Yeah, but that's the whole point, isn't it? People did finally get what Jeremy Corbyn was all about, And he lost. So how is Labour going to start winning?
Labour, as it was, is gone. And I don't believe that the people in the Labour Party... I think
Who do you want to be the new leader?
I don't have an opinion on it now.
What?
I think that there has to be a complete... I don't think any of these people are... I think the whole... It's up for debate. There is no credibility anymore.
In the Labour Party? Well, you might be right there.
I don't think there's any credibility because people don't know who are they for.
I think they do. All these Labour MPs that have written this, ex-Labour MPs who've written this letter, and there are lots in the parliamentary party who think that, and actually lots of Labour voters, who think that Corbyn and his like, the hard left that have taken over the Labour Party, they should be out, and we should get a more moderate centrist back in the leadership to reflect ordinary Labour voters. What do you say to that?
I don't know if you're going to take those people on the north with you because the thing is that people feel so cynical. When you've got nothing to lose. The one thing you do know, at least you knew Boris was going to give you Brexit. Is that crude? Is that sad? And a gig economy where people are... If you go to places in Yorkshire where you've got sink estates where people were unemployed for a long time. Now it's just
and they're all represented by Labour councillors and Labour MPs who've done a rubbish job. And that's why people also voted Conservative, because they'd given up on Labour.
Well, I think they've done it. As I said, when you've got nothing to lose. It's a terrible state of affairs. The one certainty they had was that Boris will do Brexit. It is so tragic. But my point is, there is a historical precedent for this. And quite frankly, what happened before, Blair did not do anything. When he got in, he was a Tory Mark II.
All right, okay.
And his policies
I think
were
you might
bloody
disagree
awful.
with that one quite strongly. But you are right about him continuing Conservative economic policy, actually, laid down by the mighty Ken Clarke. Look, Labour, you're listening to Anna Soubry on LBC. It's 11:17.
Anna Soubry on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Morning. Labour MPs who lost their seats in the election have called for fundamental change in their party. The former deputy leader, Tom Watson, who didn't stand again, has said he left Parliament because of the brutality and hostility he experienced within Labour. So the question is, how does Labour become a credible opposition party once again? My own view is it can start by having a credible leader. So who do you think that leader should be? Some interesting texts. Keir Starmer says Alan Jenkins, sufficiently and authentically left, principled, honest, straightforward. I love Jess Phillips, but she has a hair trigger. What? That's a bit lost on me, I have to say. Somebody else says, this is a bit tongue-in-cheek, the next Labour leader should be Rebecca Long-Bailey, because if we get Comrade Corbyn version 2.0, Boris is guaranteed a second term. Somebody else, sorry, I'm coughing now. Somebody else tweets in saying, a text says, Jess Phillips needs to be the new Labour leader because she's totally in touch with normal people. Problem is the current membership of the party doesn't reflect the wider electorate. So they're not optimistic. Let's talk to Tony from Enfield.
Yes, hello, great programme. I was so disappointed that Jeremy Corbyn had the result that he did. I think we're desperate for Jeremy Corbyn. Let's be reminded, we've had 10 years of a Conservative government, and earlier on you criticised Labour up in the poorest parts of the north. That's all down to cutbacks. If you look at every hospital in this country, we've got a shortage of nurses and consultants. No police on the streets. We've got a meltdown in our prisons. Hold on, we've got fire stations converted into private flats, all under a Conservative government. And I'll tell you what the British people are short of. We've got no French blood in our veins. I just can't believe that unemployed people on housing benefits, people living in the worst parts of the poor parts of the north went out and voted Conservative. Why? Because the war on Jeremy Corbyn was the media. Terrorism. Does he look like a terrorist to you? Do you think he'd be waving the flag?
He doesn't look like one, but he doesn't half support them. That's his background and his history.
Oh no, the West has supported Pinochet, Marcos.
Never mind that. We're not talking about them. We're talking about Jeremy Corbyn.
We're talking about the West. We're talking about the capitalist
You
system.
said. Hang on a moment. Jeremy Corbyn was rightly criticised for his support in the past of organisations like Hamas and even the IRA. It's not made up, mate. That's a fact.
Yeah, but the Conservatives had meetings with the IRA. That's
No.
We're
not talking about other people. Two wrongs don't make a right, even if what you said was right. Let's talk about Jeremy Corbyn. He supported terrorist organisations. Fact.
You got it wrong, and that's what the news media put out, because I do not believe...
All those things that he said about Hamas and the IRA, invitations to Gerry Adams when he was an active member of the IRA, all made up, are they?
Yes, because the Conservative government had meeting after meeting.
Never mind the Conservative governments. Two wrongs don't make a right. Let's talk about Comrade Corbyn.
Well,
support for Hamas. I suppose all the anti-Semitism, that's all made up as well, is it, in the Labour Party?
Absolutely. Well, tell Anna, what you should do is have, what's his name, Michael Rosen, who's an educationist and writer. And guess what? His group of Orthodox Jews are supporters of Jeremy Corbyn and members of the Labour Party.
So Luciana Berger made it all up when she left the Labour Party because of the anti-Semitism that drove her out. She made that up, did she?
Well,
Louise Ellman made it up. All made it up. No anti-Semitism problem in the Labour Party. It's all made up.
No, absolutely. And I'll tell you, if you really believe that Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic and he supports
I didn't say
terrorism,
that.
Hold on, it's about as valid as saying Margaret Thatcher was a member of the Communist Party. This is media war against the opposition. And you know, Anna, you know that 5-6% of the world's population is controlling about 70% of the world.
I tell you what, when I was out on the doorstep, people were more frightened of Jeremy Corbyn. And the only way that Labour, because of all the things I've said on his manifesto, which people thought was a load of old bunkum, it was a return to the 70s. And let me just ask you this. How are you going to... I'm assuming you're a member of the Labour Party, Tony.
I am, yes.
Right, so who do you want as leader?
I pulled out under what's his name, Tony Blair, because of the illegal war. He went down the Thatcher route.
Yeah, let's answer the question. Who do you want as leader?
Jeremy Corbyn.
No, but he's going.
Yeah, I know he's going, but I still want him as leader.
Some people say you really are a fantasist, you see. That just proves it. He's going, but you still want him. He's going, darling, so who do you want to replace Jeremy Corbyn?
The most powerful weapon that man has ever devised is the media. And it's not the people's media, as you know it, Anna. It's the corporates and the banks.
Oh, my
Why
God.
do we have 330,000 British children in bed and breakfast over the Christmas under your government, under a Conservative government? Can you tell me why you can wait 4 hours at emergency and accident?
Yeah, whatever, but he's going. Jeremy's going. Hello, Tony, welcome to the real world. Yes. Jeremy's going, darling. He's off. He's off Skidosky. He's going. So who do you want? Rebecca Long Bailey? Does she float your boat?
I would have. I think I'd have Keir.
Oh, you'd have Keir. God, I bet he's a bit worried now if somebody like you's going to support him.
Yes.
I don't mean that as rudely as it sounds, which is a bit rude. I apologise for that. But are you a member of Momentum?
No.
Well, would you describe yourself? No, probably wouldn't. As a member of the hard left, extreme
Anna,
left.
can I just say this, Anna? Anna, can I just say this? I believe that socialism works perfectly. It's not allowed to work because the wealth of this country is created by the people. Whether you work in Tesco's or you drive a cab or sweep the road, the wealth is created by the people. Why do we have homelessness? Why do we have people?
Where does socialism exist in the world? Where is the socialism in the world?
Cuba.
Cuba.
Free healthcare, free education, more doctors per capita. Infant mortality rate beats the United States. 53% of all
you might say that wouldn't be difficult, but we're not talking
women.
about... Are you actually saying we should be like Cuba?
Yeah, look what they've achieved. Life expectancy is on par with the West. They've had a trade embargo.
Well, that's all right then, isn't it? Don't you think it would be better? Because according to you, socialism is marvellous, so you'd expect all these things to be tons better than us, because it's a socialist country and we're essentially more of a capitalist-based country.
Yes, because if I've got a medical problem, I do 999. I don't call for a private ambulance. I call for a socialist ambulance. It works perfectly. It's not allowed to work because the corporates and the banks are running the economy of the planet. That's why 30,000 children starve to death around the world every day. 30,000 under the age of 5.
I think you've not answered my Cuban point. If Cuba's so marvellous, why do so many people try to get away from Cuba still?
What they did, they abolished the visa at the huge Cuban community in Florida, and all the Cubans have asked for from that. Remember the revolution, Anna, in 1959,
which all those people fled from.
Before that, it was the brothel of the Caribbean run by the American mafia, and Fidel Castro led the People's Revolution. It's people's power in Cuba, not corporates and banks. I mean, you talk. Oh, why don't?
I think you might be stuck in a bit of a time warp, Tony. But look, thank you. I'm Keir Starmer. Gosh, if he wants to ring in and talk to Tony, I think that might be an interesting conversation we'd have. I'm sure I'd be delighted by Tony's support. Just looking at some of these tweets. Thank you, Tony, in Enfield. So somebody, Bill in Fife says, I bet Labour wish they could have Nicola Sturgeon. Well, I know what you mean, because, gosh, Labour are down to one MP again in Scotland. And whatever you think of Nicola Sturgeon's views, she's a mighty fine speaker and she's a mighty fine politician. And I would say that, even though I don't agree with her on probably anything apart Brexit. LBC, and we all acknowledge strong opposition is essential. Perhaps the question should be, is Labour the best contender? No matter who the leader is. Anyway, let's look. But the question actually is, how is Labour going to be an effective opposition? Let's talk to John from Chesham in Buckinghamshire. Morning, John.
Good morning. That previous caller, just quickly, the only thing that I would agree on is we could do with getting a bit of French bloodiness and the working people get on the street, but that's about the only bit that I do agree with. Labour, to me, died when John Smith died, bless him. They've had no... I mean, Corbyn's got so much history.
Which person would you have as the leader?
Well, for me, I'm a Green member now.
Yeah.
I went 25 years with no parties because I'm definitely not a Tory.
All right.
Definitely
but what would make you want to join the Labour Party?
I want someone that with some credibility, no history, basically. No,
would have a bit of experience. No, give us a name.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. No sort of...
Give us a name.
You'll find me a John Smith Mark II.
I think you're struggling for a name as well, aren't you? I mean, it's not a criticism.
I can't find anyone. There's no one
Jess
there.
Phillips?
Keir
Starmer? Emily Thornberry?
Emily Thornberry, I like some of what she says.
You don't sound very convinced.
But no, I'm not. There isn't anyone. But they need a...
You'll be happy with Caroline Lucas, though she's not the leader of the Green Party.
I would love Caroline Lucas.
She's a good woman, and I like to call her a friend, and I enjoyed working with her in the House of Commons. Anyway, look, thanks, John, for that. Interesting that you actually couldn't find anybody to get behind, but maybe we'll have some more calls on that after the break. You're listening to me, Anna Soubry, on LBC. It's 11:30. Time for the news with Thomas Watts.
Anna Soubry on LBC. Text 84850.
Morning. Call us 0345 6060 973. Look, we're going to keep this conversation going because it's really interesting about Labour. How does it become the effective opposition which we need? Who should be the next leader? And are those MPs, former MPs who lost their seats, great old friends like Anna Turley, Phil Wilson, Emma Reynolds, Mary Cray, writing a letter calling on that change that's needed? And then I want to let me sprinkle this into your thoughts, please. Prince Harry, he's singing the New Year with Meghan and baby Archie at a £10 million waterfront mansion in Canada, apparently. And his mother-in-law, Doria, is joining them, along with the Royal Protection Team, quite rightly. But where next for Prince Harry in 2020? What is the role that we want Prince Harry to be doing? Let me put that in. We'll talk about that later. But I do want to keep on talking, if I may, get you talking about the future of the Labour Party. Let's go to Andy, who's calling from Peacehaven in East Sussex. Morning to you, Andy. What's your point, please?
Good morning. The only way Labour... I'm working class, I'm proud of it. I'm 58 years old, I still live in social housing, brought up in social housing. The only way Labour can win is if it starts backing the working class, not ignoring them in favour of everybody else, but actually putting the British people first.
OK, so give us a... Do you accept that you've got to shift back to that centre ground? Do you accept that?
Yeah, I mean, the British working class aren't what Mr Corbyn would like us to be. Nothing like it.
Can you generalise, though, even if you could actually define what the British working class is?
But patriotic. We love the Queen,
everybody's
we love the armed forces.
Yep.
We love the armed forces. We want a fair society, same as everybody else.
Quite.
You know, I mean, I've drove a lorry all over Europe for many, many years. I'm now medically retired. Austerity hasn't worked, really. It's affected me.
Give us a name then. Who would you have?
I don't know, because
Blimey.
I can't see anybody there at the moment.
That says a lot, doesn't it?
They've got to care more about the British people than they do about the poor people in Palestine or the Yemen.
There's nothing wrong, though, because Yemen's a dreadful state. Children starving.
It's what's happening there. But we've got problems here.
Well, we can do both. Can't we agree on that? We can do both.
We can do both, but let's put us first instead of putting the Yemen first, or the Palestinians first, or asylum seekers.
Look, I'm no fan of the Labour Party, but I have to say I don't think they put. I think they do put the people of this country first, but there's nothing.
Don't think they do.
But not to the exclusion of people in real need across the world, and rightly so. But you don't have a name. Let me suggest a name. Look, that's coming up quite a lot, which is Jess Phillips. A number of people are either tweeting or sending us a text messages on 848. 50. What about Jess Phillips? She likes to think that she's a champion of the working class.
She does, but then she's a little bit too far the other way.
What's the other way?
How can you put it?
On the left, on the right?
Yeah, a little bit too far to the left.
Okay. Well, again, a caller, I have to say, you can't come up with a name. Not a criticism, but maybe an indication of the pitiful state that the Labour Party's in. Thank you, Andy, for that. Let's go to Steve, who's calling from Chesterfield. Steve, have you got a name of somebody who should be... Go on, then give it to me. Who should it be?
But first of all, before I give you now, I just want to say the people of Broxtowe have missed out on having you as their MP.
Oh, you are.
I've never support. I'm not a Conservative, but I think anybody who stands up for their principles. And I was a Dennis Skinner. Dennis Skinner used to be my MP. No matter what I say, the man stood up for his principles. You stood up for yours. You left your party, went to the party, and I think for that you should have been given another chance.
Well, it's very kind of you, but thank you. Anyway, let's talk about who do you want then.
My name is, and it always has been for years and years, is Hilary Benn.
Ah, and you live in Chesterfield. And, of course, Tony Benn was a lot of people forget this, he was the MP for Chesterfield for a number of years, wasn't he? So why...
I don't think Hilary is as left-wing as his father was.
No,
I think he's a very moderate man. I think he's the kind of person that listens to all arguments in Parliament, all ideas, and I think he would listen to them. And that's what's needed in Parliament. It needs somebody who will listen to all arguments, put them in a melting pot and see what's good for the country.
And Steve, are you a member of the Labour Party?
I was a member of the Labour Party.
When did you leave?
I left because I didn't agree with what Jeremy Corbyn was doing. I mean, surprisingly, I was a striking minor. I came from a left-wing thing, but I can see this country doesn't need. It needs to get people working.
Steve, can I ask you this? Forgive me, because that is quite important, right? So I understand your background. So how did you... Do you live in Chesterfield or do you live...
I live in Chesterfield now.
Right.
I used to live in Belzone, but I live in Chesterfield.
And you voted for Dennis Skinner when you lived there. How did you vote?
I voted for Toby Perkins.
So that's Labour. He's the Labour MP.
Because I like Toby Perkins.
He's a moderate.
He's a good bloke.
What's your message to all those moderate MPs who privately say that Corbyn's a disaster, that the party needs to go back to the centre? What do you say to people like Toby?
I would
what
say
have they got to do?
Toby did exactly the right thing when he quit the cabinet, because I think we need, as I say, we need somebody in the party who will listen to all the party. There's from what I can gather, and I might be talking out my boot, but there's a lot of fear in the party. There's a lot of people being bullied in the party.
Yes, there are.
That needs to go. So we need somebody to listen.
So, Steve, look, the indications are that the membership of the Labour Party's not changed, and a Corbynite, a continuity Corbynite, is going to be elected as leader. Let's say that happens, right, and you don't get somebody like Hilary Benn, who's clearly not a Corbynista. What should Labour MPs do in that event of another Corbynista from the hard left getting elected as leader of the Labour Party? What should people like sensible moderate MPs like Toby do? What should they do?
Could it be controversial?
Well, it is LBC. Come on.
I would suggest that they form another party.
Yeah. They've got to stand up for their principles.
They've got to do that. They've got to form another party. We've got to form a party. Tony Blair, he did a lot of good things. A lot of good things for this country, whether you agree with the politics aside, whether you agree... Not everything, obviously. I didn't agree with everything he did, but he got this country going.
And he won 3 elections.
Yes.
And Corbyn's lost 2.
That's what we need. But what we need in this country is a opposition that is an opposition, because a big majority isn't good.
And you will know where you live. It's an area that's in the East Midlands I'm familiar with. You will know, as we all know, Bolsover has gone Conservative.
Oh God! Yes, unbelievable. Clay Cross in the previous election.
Bassett Law, 14,000 majority. That's my home workshop. Unbelievable.
As well as the Corbyn viewpoint, Bolsover's demographic has changed.
Yes, it has.
A heck of a lot. There's a lot of young people in there.
Aspirational, voting Conservative.
They don't understand about the struggles of industry and everything that's gone on. So they're looking at the best. And as well, as one of you called, I'm not saying it was completely the argument, but Brexit did form a big argument in the election. People had voted. Many people speak to me, look, we voted to come out. We need to, and we need. That's the vote.
And it was, and there were Remainers as well. I know that, obviously, in my constituents who said, "Never mind what you've done, Anna. The point is."
Look, I love Hillary Benn. I know he's not even a contender or anything, but I think he would make a very, very good Prime Minister.
Steve, you're a star, darling. I agree with so much of what you said, especially about Hillary Benn. He's a good man. Thank you for your call. Let's go to Mike in Bromley. Mike, give us a name. Who would you like to be the next leader of the Labour Party?
Morning, Anna. Well, I'm not a Labour voter, but I would say they need to move over from the whole kind of Corbynista faction. I would personally go for, out of all of them, it's not a great list of candidates, let's be honest. It's a bit of a donkey derby. But I would say Lisa Nandy, I think, has spoke the most kind of sense and seems the most plausible candidate out of all of them. I don't think any of them would make much of a dent, really, in Boris's plans and really hold him to account, really, particularly.
Do you always vote the same way, or have there been times when you have not always voted for the same party?
I've voted for the main 3 parties. I'm not really
so you're a floating voter.
I voted Conservative last time because interesting to talk to you, I'm a staunch Brexiteer. But
don't worry, darling, you can't have everything in life, but go on.
On other stuff, so interesting to talk to you, Anna. But yeah, I'm a floating voter. I mean, in the Blair days, I have voted Labour in the past.
So you are a very important... I mean, everybody's important, of course, but no, being very, very serious, your views are very important, because if Labour can't persuade you to vote for them, they're not going to win. So, why do you like... So what have they got to do to win back people like you? That is the real question.
What they have to do. I mean, I live in South East London, in Bromley, in quite a safe Tory seat, but that isn't the point. I think it's not people like me they necessarily want to appeal to. If they want to get their heartlands back, they have to stop being the liberal left kind of woke party.
But can I just say, your values are just the same as those people that Steve was talking about in Chesterfield. So your values are the same. It's really interesting to know what you think, what would make people vote, because that's what they've got. They seem to forget this. They can't just keep talking to themselves. They've got to win people over.
Well, what they need to do is listen. They're not listening to them. Even now, they're blaming their defeat on Brexit and Jeremy Corbyn's personality. I think it's more than that. I think the Labour, there's been a lot of people that didn't bother to vote long before we even had a referendum on Brexit. A lot of these people have become disaffected. They don't feel the Labour Party is representing them.
But you think sorry to interrupt you, but you think Lisa Nandy is somebody who actually could start to hit the right buttons to persuade people back to Labour?
I think whoever the candidates they've got, including Lisa Nandy, I can't see any of them being the next Prime Minister, got to be completely honest. But if they need to claw their way back in the same way the Conservatives managed to throughout the noughties, if you like, which you'll remember well, that's what they need to do. They need to get someone in there who can at least hold Boris to account. And like me, I'm a floating voter. I'm not a Labour supporter, but I need like you were saying earlier, I want a good, strong Labour opposition. Right. Which isn't going to happen otherwise. But they need to listen to people. And I think the problem the Labour Party have got is that they refuse to move away from this kind of liberal, London-centric kind of standpoint, which is a bit, it's a bit preachy, it's a bit condescending, and it's not really listening to people's genuine problems.
You make some very important points, and I agree with you. We don't agree on Brexit, but hey, doesn't that just prove so much more in common? Thanks, Mike. You're listening to Anna Soubry on LBC. It's 11:46, nearly 11:47. And after the break, we're going to be talking, please, about Prince Harry. What's his future? New year, new beginning perhaps for Prince Harry? Let us know. Give us a call. Don't forget, 0345 6060 973. Morning. My eye was caught by a story in most of the newspapers about Prince Harry spending the new year in Canada with his wife, obviously, and their baby, and their mum-in-law. Rather, his mum-in-law is going to be joining them. And I just wondered, what is the future looking like for Prince Harry? What is his role? You might want to just send tweets in, because there is a big conversation that's going on about who should be the next leader of the Labour Party. And we've got loads and loads and loads of calls, lots of names coming in. And what is the future? How is the Labour Party going to win? How's it going to be an effective opposition as it has an effective leader? Dee from Reading, do you have a name? Who would you like to see leading the Labour Party?
Absolutely. Good morning, Anna.
Morning. And it's good to have a woman. More women, call in, please. Carry on, lovely. Go on.
And Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you.
David Lammy.
Well, I like. He's a lovely man, David Lammy. He's become a friend of mine.
I think Labour had to understand that you need somebody who's aspirational, and that's why Tony Blair kept winning. It's because he was giving people aspiration, and it's not just about being happy with your lot and the state throwing things at you. It's about people who want to do for themselves. And I think in a media age, one of the problems that Jeremy Corbyn had and has is that he didn't understand it. He wasn't out there. He wasn't seen. It doesn't matter if he's a nice bloke or a really good campaigner. People want to see you. And I think the thing with David Lammy is he's a great orator. He knows his stuff. He will hold the government to account. And I think you need somebody with that strength of character to hold somebody like the current Prime Minister.
I have to tell you that Chris from Somerset sent in a text saying that he'd heard Corbyn speak at many rallies and meetings and over 20 years, actually. And he said he thought that Jeremy Corbyn was ahead of his time. Well, actually, his time's up because we know he's going. You're right about David. David is a good speaker, David Lammy. But he's a London MP and he's a man. And is the Labour Party now absolutely determined to have a woman from the north, as it's put, north of the Trent?
I don't know.
A good place to be.
I don't know whether that is necessary. And I say this as a Labour supporter, and I voted Labour in spite of Jeremy Corbyn, not because of
like
him.
Many, I understand.
But I do agree that a woman leader, to me, the current crop of women that I see, for me, it would not be Lisa Nandy, because I think she's just a bit limp.
Okay.
Jess
Phillips doesn't float your boat?
Not who?
Jess Phillips, how can you say no? Ooh, she's...
Oh, Jess Phillips, yeah,
yes.
No, I quite like her, but I think she's a little bit too emotional. Emotional's not the right word.
No, because women are only ever described as emotional.
No,
yes.
No, not emotional. I think that she needs to be a little bit more refined.
Oh, right, okay.
I suggest.
I wouldn't be the one to suggest that to her.
I would suggest.
What about...
I would suggest, but it doesn't mean that I don't...
But what about Rebecca Long-Bailey, who's seen as the Corbynite, continuity Corbyn?
No.
Yes? No?
It's lost 2 elections.
Right.
It's not working.
Okay. All right, man. Look, thank you very much for that, Dee. We're going to go to Jeff, who's calling in from Munich. Morning to you, Jeff. Who do you think should be the next leader of the Labour Party?
Yeah, hi, Anna. I've got a new one for you. Yeah.
Yep.
Stella Creasy.
Yes, she has a lot of supporters, but she's from the south of the country.
30,000 majority.
Yep.
Stood up against payday lenders.
Yep.
Offered some work for Labour values.
Did a terrific job with abortion rights in Northern Ireland. I was very proud to work with her on that. She's done a great deal of campaigning work.
Even stood at account with her 2-week-old "You're a kiddie."
Yeah.
Can speak. Can put her opinions across. What's not to like?
Yep. Okay, look, thank you for that, Chris. I know that. Sorry, Jeff. Beg your pardon on that one. A lot of people actually would agree with you about Stella. I've just seen a tweet that's come in, because we were saying about Prince Harry and what about his future in 2020. He's in Canada. He's been there a few weeks over the Christmas and New Year period. And Elaine from York says, Prince Harry and Meghan are like the Tony and Cherie Blair of British politics were in 1997. They should continue to divert their efforts to the greatest threat facing our world, and that is climate change. Does Prince Harry and Meghan, do they have a role, the Sussexes, to play in the fight against climate change? That's a good question. Somebody else, actually, going back to the other question which we're talking about, is what happens to Labour. And somebody, who is this, doesn't have a name, but I'll let you off in a text. Labour need Andy Burnham. The trouble is, Andy Burnham is not a member of Parliament, and you can't be the leader of Her Majesty's opposition unless you're a member of Parliament. Let's talk to James in Southampton. Who would you have, James?
I definitely have Keir Starmer.
Why? Tell us why, lovely.
I think. I remember I was on the People's Vote March, actually, the second time, the second march recently, and I remember just watching on my phone that day, and I could just see that Keir Starmer I thought he had Parliament in his hand that day.
Are you a member of the Labour Party?
Yeah, I am.
So, and how would you... don't you think that the Labour Party's got to move to the centre?
Yeah, I do. And I think Keir Starmer's clever enough to know that. However, I think that at the moment he kind of needs to tread a fine line to try and get sort of a little bit of support from Unite and Momentum. If it was left to me, Momentum would leave the party completely, like Alan Johnson said, because I think there's a poison in the party, to be honest. But I think he's the guy that can kind of marry it together. And I think where Corbyn was miles ahead with the members, always, which is a nightmare, I think you look at the polling and Keir Starmer is actually the most popular with the members that voted for Corbyn.
Oh, that's a very interesting thought. So you don't think it's going to be Rebecca Long-Bailey, then? You think it could be Keir Starmer?
I think that would be just absolutely dreadful and pretty much the end of the party. I do agree with you that the party needs to move to the centre, which is why I thought, New Labour under Tony Blair was a fantastic government, pretty much. And,
So I've got sorry to interrupt you. I've got a text message saying from Mary in Oxford who says, "Bring back David Miliband." What do you think about that? Because he'd have to win a seat.
I would love that. I think it would be amazing. I think, him and Keir Starmer are probably the best candidates
but
to do that.
But it's not going to happen, is it? Because the Labour Party membership is still in the grip of the Corbynites. And if it doesn't happen, you're jiggered, aren't you?
But Keir Starmer is the preferred candidate of the members and all the polling.
Okay, let me just... Thank you. Sorry, James, because I know the clock ticking away quite rightly. Obviously, you couldn't stop it. But let's quickly take Nick. Nick in Nottingham. Actually, the centre of the universe. Oh, sorry, we go to Jamie in Glasgow first. You can tell this is only the second time I've done this. Hi, Jamie. Who would you have?
Hi, good morning, Anna.
Morning.
Well, I might be inclined to go for a moderate candidate. I think after the Corbyn kind of whirlwind, I think Barry Gibson, isn't it? Barry Gardner.
Barry Gardner? Barry Gardner's not a moderate, is he?
Well, I think after Corbyn, I think anybody that that sort of on any kind of centrist kind of platform is going to be seen as moderate. But yeah, I think they've got to get away from the Corbynism, because obviously that went down like a dead duck.
But you see, the argument is that Barry Gardner's been there propping up Jeremy Corbyn. He's part of his gang because he's in the shadow cabinet. And what these ex-Labour MPs are saying is that the Labour Party needs a complete shake-up, get back into the centre ground with a decent, effective leader of the opposition and a decent leader.
Yeah.
And Barry Gardner has not struck many people as a natural heir.
Yeah, but the thing is that you can't have the experience, to get the kind of background to be a leader unless you've had some kind of cabinet experience. In which case, you've got to kind of have the but yeah, and the other thing is about Barry Gardner. It's not just because he's a Scot, obviously.
So look, Jamie, your line's cracking up, lovely, and apologies for that, but thank you very much indeed. I've got some other names, actually. Martin from Barnsley on text says Dan Jarvis. Somebody else, but Phil in Lymington says the only way for Labour Party is to be that centre party, but he can't come up with a name. I'm lost. And then Joe from Blackheath says either Yvette Cooper, Dan Jarvis again, or Liz Kendall. They're experienced and sensible centrists who can actually win. And of course, if you can't win, what's the frigging point? That's what people say. Thanks for all your texts, your calls, your tweets. You've been listening to Anna Soubry on LBC. Coming up at 3:00, it's Ian Payne. But before then, Matt Stadlen. And John, we had a bit of John Bercow. You're going to have a lot of John Bercow.
We're going to have a lot of John Bercow. Anna Soubry, thank you very much indeed. Happy New Year to you.